Can you imagine serving a 20-year prison sentence in your mind and never physically stepping foot into the prison? Then we're talking about the world's tallest and first ever skyscraper prison being built out of New York City. And lastly, we're talking about El Salvador's mega prison complex that houses over 40,000 inmates and is already overpopulated by 33%. First, today we're going to be jumping into a futuristic yet somewhat controversial concept that could flip our entire approach to the prison system on its head. But before we dive into that next story, make sure you like the video, subscribe to our channel, and most importantly, ring the notification bell so you stay up to date with all of our future videos. We're talking about a proposal called Cognify.
Futuristic prison concept called Cognify.
The Cognify concept offers a new approach to criminal rehabilitation.
Now, if you haven't heard of this yet, we're talking about implanting artificial memories into our prison system. But first, let's start with the numbers. The global prison population has skyrocketed by 24% since the year 2000. Not to mention that the US holds a dubious title of having the highest incarceration rate among NATO countries, including the UK and Canada. And with 71% of released prisoners rearrested in just 5 years, it's clear that the current prison system just isn't working. So you got to think, there's got to be some people that are just thinking about some innovative ways. How the hell can we fix this system? That's where Hashem Al-Ghaili comes in. I'm butchering his name, so let's just call him HIG for now on. And he's a molecular biologist and science communicator from Yemen. He proposes something straight out of your favorite sci-fi flick. And it's a virtual prison called Cognify. Forget about your regular concrete prison cells. Cognify is a neurological prison where instead of doing time behind bars, inmates would be subjected to artificial memories designed to reshape their actual behaviors. How does it work? Well, imagine this. Instead of serving a lengthy sentence, prisoners would experience tailored AI-generated memories that are encoded into their brains. These memories would be customized based on the specific crime they committed, targeting emotions like empathy and regret. Now, Al-Ghaili believes that this could lead to real behavioral changes, potentially reducing those high recidivism rates. Now, this isn't just some pipe dream. There's some science behind this. Al-Ghaili points to animal studies that suggest it's possible to implant memories by converting visual information into codes that get delivered directly into the brain. They could even use low pulse lasers to trigger specific memories tied to AI generated experiences. It's kind of like taking your brain on an artificial field trip designed to invoke certain feelings and some sort of emotions, more like a virtual boot camp. Of course, let's not ignore the elephant in the room though, right? And what is that? We're talking about all the ethical concerns that come behind this. If you were a part of a victim's family and that person who now just got convicted of whatever crime you can imagine, if they got an artificial memory implant to experience prison and now they're out walking the streets, how would you feel? But that's a whole nother subject. But if we're talking about embedding memories, what about personal autonomy? What if someone's memories are manipulated to fit the social norms? Al-Ghaili acknowledges that this is a massive hurdle that needs to be addressed, especially for individuals whose emotional responses might be fundamentally different, like psychopaths, who are 20 to 25 times more likely to commit violent crimes. I mean, just think about that. If we implant them with the wrong memories, what kind of outcome could happen? Could we create someone who now maybe accidentally murdered somebody and now they turn into an actual serial killer afterwards? There's going to be a lot of hurdles, obviously, he's going to have to climb to get past this point. But how does Cognify propose to work? Al-Ghaili lays out a 4-step plan. First, you get the inmate's consent. Second, a brain scan that determines which areas to target. Third, the actual implementation of these memories. And finally, monitoring their behavioral changes post-implantation. It sounds simple enough, right? But we all know it's going to be a lot messier than that. But the challenges for this to come true are going to be monumental, with potential repercussions including skewed self-identity and the ethics of altering someone's psyche. The road to implementation is fraught with complications. Al-Ghaili remains hopeful that the AI is successful in its trials with animal models, and if successful, that could make Cognify a reality within just a decade. If we can just navigate those ethical restrictions, then we can make this happen. And if you're listening to all this and saying this is legitimately sci-fi becoming reality, well, it actually is, because in the late 90s, The Outer Limits had an episode called The the sentence, where a scientist subjects himself to a virtual lifetime prison experience only to question the morality of his creation afterwards. It's the kind of story that makes you wonder about the future of justice and the true cost of technology. So if Cognify really is the future of criminal justice, or is it just a risky fantasy from a good sci-fi episode in The Outer Limits? But like always, that's up for you guys to decide in the comments below. Let me know what you think about all of this. Now, next up, we're talking about something that's actually happening right now, today, in New York City.
A tower that will rise higher than the Statue of Liberty, not as a monument to freedom, but as the world's tallest jail.
The tallest prison ever being built, which is going to be 300 feet tall, yes, 30 stories high in New York City. The prison is also going to be one of the most expensive in the world at $3.8 billion. Yes, $3.8 billion. It's only going to house 1,040 inmates, and the whole purpose of this construction is to replace Rikers Island, which is closing in 2027. Now, the way they are going to try and formulate this and put this together, that because it's going to take 7 years to build this $3.8 billion prison, is to, in the meantime, house all the inmates at 4 different separate smaller prisons until this is built. But even with only 1,040 inmates being held in this one prison, they're going to need more space. So this prison that's being built is also going to be very futuristic looking. It's not going to be your typical prison. It's going to have playrooms. It's going to have clinics inside. It's going to have visitation rooms. It's going to have everything you could possibly think of in a much more luxurious prison, not just for the inmates, but also for the staff. So it should be a place that is not an eyesore for the people in Chinatown, which is where it's being built in New York City. Have you seen what's happening in El Salvador? Well, if you haven't, we're talking about the prison that holds 40,000 inmates and is already running over capacity.
A September 2024 report from the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights expressed concerns about overcrowding
By 133%. Yes, they have 14,000+ more inmates than they can possibly hold, giving each inmate less than 6 square feet of space. Plus, they're not allowed outside and they're not allowed any visitors. This mega prison is literally hell on earth for anybody that's in a gang in El Salvador. Most of these gang members that have all been hurdled up by their president are MS-13 members, where he put his foot down because, let's not forget, El Salvador had one of the highest crime rates in the entire world, and his way of putting a stop to it was to round up anybody who even resembled a gang member and put them in this prison. Now, this has also led to many deaths while the inmates were in custody in El Salvador. They have put a hard stop to showing gang members they are not messing around over there in that prison. Now, this prison is built on over 57 acres, and the El Salvadorian president has recommended that if the U.S. wanted to send over inmates to help house some of these people under these conditions, they would be more than welcome to. But more importantly, what do you think? Is this the future of prisons? Could this ever land here in America? And what do you think that's happening over there? Is this justice for El Salvador, or is this just madness? Leave a comment below.